Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, Guile here, and welcome back to another Supreme Commander Epic. I'd like to thank you guys for joining me and start off today's cast by apologising for that strange content aberration which appeared on the channel not 3 or 4 days ago. As many of you would have immediately guessed, I wasn't the fantastic author of that stunning piece of cinematography. It's basically the product of what happens when you give your phone to your child. And yes, whoever asked in the comment section if that was Baby Klinkhammer, yes it was. For those of you that didn't see it, it consisted of a 16 or 17 second clip of a hallway and some kids playing what I assume was hide and seek. I didn't actually watch it, I just promptly deleted it, but not before it had amassed some 4,000 views. I was like, that's awesome. Which I don't get, because my thumb lancing little operation thing, that got 6,500 views, and yet 4,000 of you wanted to watch a video of a random hallway with no title, and it would only been up for like an hour. Like, what's that about? Clearly, I don't know what makes a successful YouTube channel, what appeases the algorithm. Otherwise, I'd be doing better after 10 years, I guess. But, yeah, so apologies for that. And whoever complimented me on the hallway, thank you very much. But no, it's not my hallway and it wasn't my furniture. It belongs to a relative, but I passed on your appreciation and they were appreciative in turn. So there we have it. Hopefully no more of those little surprises coming away. It's given me an excuse now not to share my phone with my kids, which is great because I've been looking for something for many years and you guys have now provided it for me. So thank you for that. What have we got today? As we said, it's going to be custom 6v6 though. It's going to be mainly Joe's, but with a small seasoning of pros thrown in there for good measure. And the best news is there's no other news, so we can go straight to that action, which is going to go down on Adaptive Delta Reaver. Sorry, I had to think about that. I'm ready. You guys are ready, and the players are sure as hell ready. So let's go on over to the game zone and see how they're going to get on. Ching. Ka-ching. No instant loading for you. You know why? Because I actually forgot to load the game up before starting it, so it's got a horrible little blank screen. There we go, but it all loads for us in the end. We'll call this Team 1 up here at the top left, because why not? And this will be Team 2 down here at the bottom right. Going first for Team 1, though, in the top left-hand corner in burgundy red, we have Geneva Convention going UEF, opening first land. Lots of interesting foreign speak there in the channel. If you speak Russian, do let us know what they're talking about. And I'm actually assuming that is Russian. I have no idea. There might be a whole family of languages that use that alphabet, which I'm not aware of. Next up, though, team member number 2 for Team 1. It's Comrade Striker, or Comrade Striker to normal human beings like you and some other people I met once. Here he is. He's going UEF, opening first and second land. On the front row, the front line, if you will, for Team 1 in Haliborange Orange, going Seraphim, which I think is a mistake. He should have gone UEF and then he could have produced lots of Mongoose, because it wasn't Ricky Tikki Tavi or Tavi a Mongoose. Well, this is in the comment section below if you know what I'm talking about, because I sure don't. Yeah, he's going first land in Haliborange Orange, if I didn't say that already. Next up over here, it's anal apparently. Next up over here, it's Tom Magician. And he's going UEF in Lurid Green, opening first air. Team member number 4 to the bottom left, it's Barg 6516, we'll call him Barg today, going Aeon in Elephantine Grey, opening first land. And last but not least, for Team 1, excuse me, it's Naturally Aspirted. Naturally Aspirted, we'll call him Naturally today, because I don't know what that second word is actually supposed to be. And he is going Aeon in Mellow Yellow, opening first air. Now let's check out Team 2 down here at the bottom right. First of all, rearguard air position. Lee Source, otherwise known as Hoisin, going Cyanide Cyan, opening first land, second air, and going Seraphim. Team member number 2 to his left, it's Nightblood, going Seraphim as well, in Baby Blue this time, going first land and second air. Team member number 3 on the front line, already leaving his island. It's Don Salieri, Mozart's natural enemy, although I think it's actually meant to be Salieri, although he's written Salieri. Maybe he's just an Italian chap who enjoys sailing. Maybe that's what that's about. Actually, Don Salieri, wasn't he in the Mafia games? Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, there he is. He's going Cybrin, bless him, and he went first air. Team member number 4 in Spetsnaz Green. Spare a moment for this poor chap who's got poo in his circulatory system. It's Gutsy Heart. There he is, and he's gone first. I assume first land, second air. Team member number 5 to the top right. It's the finest of the home counties, maybe even the finest county in Britain. It's Surrey. There he is, and he has gone Seraphim, assuming it's first land, second air, potentially already working on transports to populate the area with more Surreyage. Never a bad thing. And last but not least, over here has already left his island. It's Rageyes. He's going UEF, how terribly sensible, in a fabulous Vivacious Violet, getting straight over there, throwing down a mech, and got a couple of factories queued up as well. Actually measuring up fairly well with Rikki Tikki Tavi, but Rikki Tikki Tavi went straight for a land factory to begin with. Then he's going to hoover up some reclaim and presumably go for a mechs down the road. We've got drops kicking off all over the place here. This game heating up nicely inside 4 minutes here. Another drop with courier loaded with engineers heading to where exactly is the question? Inside the crater. And this is why we've got some natural civilian structures here, a T2 PGen along with a radar system, but it looks like he might have got their second transport inbound for Rageyes. Gets 2 engineers on the ground first, but it's 2 engineers versus 4. What's going to be the outcome of this little exchange? Well, it's an instant reclaim job there from Dark Magician, who's paying attention. Gets a nice, presuming that that's from Comrade Striker, that little ping there that he's talking about, that encounter. But it's a nice little hold for him. What's he going to go for? A plasma cannon to prevent any more drops from going down. And once he's got that, I assume we'll see whether or not he goes for reclaim on these or if he tries to capture that. A T2 PGen gives you outrageous amounts of power in the early game, comparatively speaking, on what you would normally have under normal terms, normal sources of expansion. What's going on here? So a transport actually returning for Geneva Convention. I'm presuming it was down here, and he got 4 engineers on the ground. He managed to build a land factory before all 4 of those clumped up Engies got obliterated in one bomb there from Lee Source. So very well done to him, sir. Nicely aimed, nicely executed, denying that hydro and all of that jazz. But unfortunately, he has already managed to get a land factory in play, and as soon as we get some engineers, that will be a solidified position, I'm sure. So the 2 main land masses which are going to be contested here are this one and this one, obviously in the center. We do actually, that's interesting actually, we have an ACU presence for Team 2 on the bottom one for Don Salieri, but none here for Naturally, who's kept his comm up on his starting island over here, and is instead using that extra build capacity to beef up his naval game. Spat out 1 frigate before immediately getting to work on a T2 naval HQ, and that actually may be enough to shut down this position over here of Don Salieri's all by itself and force him off there with his commander. If you start getting a presence over here of destroyers and the like, could cause no end of problems. Now let's have a look at the 2 corners. Well, it looks like it's 1 corner apiece so far. Striker going for the top right, has a presence over here, although we do have 1 engineer on the ground here for Surrey, working on a land factory. Excuse me. And down here at the bottom left, it's a single presence in favour of Team 2 here, and Nightblood, who already is working on his 4th land factory down here. So this is probably looking like it's going to be a solid hold for Team 2, at least in the early game. Don Salieri abandoning his coastline down here now that he's got a couple of land factories in play, and marching up on this beachhead over here. Naturally working on a 2nd land factory, has at least 1 unit of point defense and some wall sections guarding it in play, but Salieri should be able to dust that aside if he's committed. I think he will probably manage it. Still not complete on that T2 naval HQ, and of course producing destroyers is going to take an awful lot out of him, and at the moment he's only pulling in 31 mass per tick, and that is actually short stacking the field almost. Rageyes putting out a pretty pitiful 23 on the opposing team, but that's because he's currently power locked. That will bounce back in short order once he sorts out his power situation. Gun upgrade on the way for Rygeyes, who's rooted to the spot and can only watch the inbound Rikki-Tikki Tavi, who has his gun upgrade in play already, just beat the ever-living hell out of his forces. One tank after another going down, but he's about to complete his Zeph amp. There it goes, and he's also got a T2 engineering suite already on board. So that's the second upgrade. It is now a 11,400 HP com versus a 13,900 HP com. Rygeyes stopped to start production on a Triad and let his engineers finish it off, but he's not going to be allowed to because Rikki-Tikki Tavi saw the threat and stopped shooting at Rygeyes com for a moment just to kill the engineers. So nice work there. And he's also got some inbound support here from some Thams and the odd Lobo, Zui. He's not UEF, he is Seraphim. Odd Zui engaging that commander as well. So despite the extra hit point advantage, Rygeyes taking a bit of a battering, and he's lost one of his coastal factories as well. The other one down to about 60% of its base health. This little area looking troublesome potentially for Team 2, but they've certainly got the handle on things on the other central island down here. Don Salieri forcing naturally aspirated off this little section here. He did finish his T2 naval yard. It looks like he's about to complete that first destroyer, but is already under threat by the odd frigate and sub out from Salieri. But there is the destroyer, a naval T2 presence. We will see as this pans out if rushing T2 naval tech there was the right way to go. I'm not sure it's the direction I would have taken it. He's now going to find it hard to break this, or harder than he needed to. Salieri setting up a very aggressively placed naval yard there, considering he's just seen a destroyer roll out of the conveyor belt there. Well, if you can't really roll out of a wet dock like that, but nonetheless, not quite the decision I would have gone with. Rikki-Tikki Tavi over here taking some damage now from not the fighter bombers and a Triad that was completed on the coastline over here. He managed to destroy that second land factory, but he's in real trouble here. 1,800 hit points on the com, making a run for it, but it's not going to help him against these fighter bombers. Bosh! Almost on the nose of 10 minutes, a little bit after, and it's Gutsy Heart with his Pooey Heart managing to take the first kill. It's is it a custom game with full share? What is the situation here? Or are all of these buildings going pop? There is the transfer of units over to the next highest scoring player, which is Geneva Convention. The chappie in the top left hand corner, who's actually starting on the right shoulder drone. He's already got the left one, and that will give him a massive boost in terms of eco. He's not actually pulling in the most mass for his team. Dark Magician is pulling in 139 mass per tick, so he has really invested in eco. No, that's why. So he's had that transferred over to him. I was busy looking at the scoreboard there and not the main map itself, but that helpfully transferred over, and it's Dark Magician who will profit most from the destruction of his teammate. But Rygeyes with an opportunity now to conquer this island, advances forward, takes down the Hydro, and he's got a couple of friendly vessels from Gutsy Heart just around the other side. Ooh, what's going on here? Courier laden with engineers inbound from Striker, looking to take the crater away from Rygeyes, but he's going to get himself shot down. Ouch! Little group of archers over here that finished that transport off. That only counted as one kill for this poor little archer there, but there were 6 engineers on board that bad boy. That should be 7 kills in my mind. Devs, make it happen. Surely that can't be a complicated piece of code. Should be able to sort that out, I'm sure. So, we are at the air superiority fighter stage. Decent number of them circling Team 1's territory for Geneva Convention. What have we got? Some 9 fighters on the field for him. How about Team 2? Lee Source 3. So, slightly off the boil. behind the curve, if you will. Geneva Convention with a modest advantage. How is Lee Source doing on generated eco? Well, not so well on that side of things either. It's 82 for Team 2's Air Player versus 110 for Geneva Convention. Geneva Convention admittedly is sitting on 2 extra mass points, still carrying on, getting a little bit of the take-home from his teammate's demise, which will be assisting him somewhat. Saucy little drop from Nightblood. Some Zuis on the ground over here, and just look how successful they have been. Naturally advancing back onto the island there, away from his naval yard with his comm, to find his base in ruins. Apologies for missing that little drop. That must have been quite the spectacle. Lovely work from Nightblood, though, who is, by the looks of things, amassing up another potential drop down here. Lots and lots of suicide mortars, the Zui spam ready to go. Doesn't look like he's got any transports to hand, though. The last lot probably got destroyed in that recent escapade. Lots of Suwissel subs. And some frigates as well for Surrey, challenging Striker's position in the top right-hand corner. 3 potential naval yards in jeopardy here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subs against 1 torpedo launcher. That top naval factory in danger of going down there. 746 hit points remaining. Frigates soaking up some of the damage. And another wave moving in as well for Surrey. This is good work here from our home counties player. Bosh. 2 frigates remain. Wow, and he's brought his comm all the way up as well, and he's getting his first upgrade, 45% complete so far. Checking back in with Naturally, he has asserted control back over this island once more. Still 1 more mech to grab, though, with his commander. And he needs to get some factories in play as well. But this is going to be a weakened area for Team 1 versus Team 2. Don Salieri in control of this forward island over here. With the exception of the crater, Geneva Convention still holding on to that. It's actually a nice little dynamic with this map. The fact that you have these separate parts. It's quite the crater you're looking at. I'm assuming that's not scalable from the ground. Answers in the comments section below if you know whether that's accurate or not. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Some destroyers now rolling in from Gutsy Hard as well. We could be looking at the elimination of Striker's corner base here. The majority of his manufactories are up here. Taking a look at what Gutsy Heart can hit with those destroyers. I mean, he could park it a little bit closer. He should be able to strike all of those from the coastline there. No T2 vessels, though, in play for Surrey. Up at this corner of the map, at least, although there's 1 inbound now. Major push from Team 2 now to take this top right-hand corner. We've got a transport inbound full of engineers from Rye Guys. Not going all the way in, instead offloading just outside the harbour area. Air factories pumping out torpedo bombers for Striker, but they're going to need some kind of reinforcements coming in from the west to prevent this island from falling. It's not looking promising for the time being on that front, it doesn't look like. Let's take a look at total mass scores so far between the 2 teams. Team 2 at 981 mass per tick. Team 1 at 916. fluctuating though, of course, and it looks like Team 2 are up by about 40k mass, maybe about 41k, something like that. That's pretty sizable, but again, not game-changing. But what have we got here? Strat Bomber with 13 kills to its name from Lee Source. Has it been on a mass sniping run? Can't see a whole load of unused mass points, so potentially not, but it's got some kills, some clumped kills potentially somewhere. Yellow, stop building Navy and eco up, says Ricky Ticky. I mean, that's pretty solid advice. Core mass still all at Tech 1. He's got to get a handle on his eco right now. If Red just completely rolls over my island there is no ecoing up. I mean, no, you need to eco up, otherwise he is going to completely roll over your island. There's just no two ways about it. Right now, you're fortunate he's not pressing. 3 Salems and 3 more Seraphim destroyers for Gutsy Heart and for Don Salieri. And they really could just roll right in here. Although I have seen some collections of gunships kicking around for Geneva Convention. I don't know if they've been shot down. They've been retasked up here. Interesting. So some of this fleet presence, in fact, virtually all of it has been redirected up over here. They didn't just stick around to try and hit this corner base. In fact, they're letting the comm set up shop over here. They've got 1 naval yard, but they sent all of those vessels in to hit Comrade Stryker's naval yards, which are much closer to the main base. There are a lot of naval yards here, though, for Stryker. Stryker, who's pulling in about 224 mass per tick. Nowhere near the amount of Dark Magician, of course, who's sitting on 2 base at 380. And he's getting a lot of assistance from Dark Magician, who's not going straight in with all of his vessels. At the moment, he's just kind of strafing them with his destroyers. And it looks like it's done the job nicely. Surrey running out of vessels completely. What a mess of aircraft as well in the area. ASFs from Team 1 and Team 2 getting into it. That's going to go badly for Lee Source, who's going to get chopped to bits by Geneva Convention's defending ASF horde. And that is the end of the threat. Stryker did lose 6 T1 naval yards, but they are a dime a dozen, so he won't be too worried about that. Surrey now advancing with his commander. He's got T2 engineering suite. He's got Gum. And he's making a play now for this top right-hand corner island. A lot of spam on the move, so I was thinking it was going to measure up for another drop, but instead it looks like they're going to hoof it out on hover. I was about to say on foot, but it's not. They hover, so it's some kind of hover plate. If that's even a thing. Look at this. They didn't like that threat from the Neptune. A massive wave of torpedo bombers in from Barg going after that Neptune. Shield boat blocking most of that inbound torpedo fire, but they are lacking somewhat in anti-air coverage. The one major threat on that front was the cruiser. That was the secondary target, which became primary once the shield had collapsed. Down it goes, and now what are they going to work on? The answer is nothing. Lee Source quick to intercept with his ASFs, leaving just 1 torpedo bomber remaining, going after what exactly? The battle cruiser? Who can tell? Not going to do an awful lot of damage with just that one. Single file line of suicide mortars moving up to poor old Naturally and his base up here. What's left of it? He just started rebuilding. Got all of the core mass up to T2. If he had started that earlier, he may be in a better position by now. May not being the operative word, he would have been. In the top right hand corner, Surrey has made landfall with his comm. He's set up 3, soon to be 4 land factories. And surely with this comm presence, if he were to go aggressive, he should be able to take this. He will be mindful, of course, not to get caught out by some gunship snipe attempt from Geneva, which could materialize at any moment. He's seen the T2 gunships hovering around the naval encounters. He knows how strong the ASF presence is, so that's perhaps why he's being cautious. A lot of Zuis filing up towards the western edge of the map instead of going straight in towards Naturally's base. But all of this being dealt with by a massive, and I do mean massive, T1 bomber spam out from Barg. Threat definitely contained on that front. Coupled with the frigate threat, no real chance of these Zuis breaking it through to Yellow's base. And actually, what looked like for a while there a threat brewing for Naturally from Don Salieri and originally at the time Gutsy Heart, that has since dematerialized, largely due to the presence of Dark Magician, who has just flooded the center of the map with huge quantities of T2 and T1 vessels, and even has a couple of battleships to his name, or rather a battleship and a battle cruiser. This chap operating on both Seraphim and UEF tech. Doesn't have any shield boats in the mix though, defending his units from inbound fire. A couple of Neptunes under here now. Left over T1 bombers sinking some random Seraphim vessels. Top right hand corner meanwhile for Surrey. Burrowing in now, has a shield gen, working on some point defense. Playing it very, very cautiously indeed. Actually finds himself subject to a point defense creep. Sans hostile commander. This is all being done now with just your average T2 field engineers, your Sparkies. Wonderful little chaps they are with their little front mounted autocannon. When civvies get all courageous. Not many people know about the UEF's constitutional right to bear arms for civilians. Hence the Sparky. Thunderheads inbound for Striker. And it's interesting, he wouldn't have asked them to go single file there, but they really did just funnel in like they were going through some kind of geographical narrow strait there. Seemed like they were unnecessarily sorting themselves into a kill box here for Surrey's battleship. What's happening in the center of the map? Well, shield boats have been depleted, covering Raigai's and Don Salieri's fleet. Those two battleships for Dark Magician, one of them pretty badly damaged actually, only with 6,000 HP left out of 49,000, but they're still laying down the fire at range, picking off vulnerable vessels. These Cooper torpedo boats might well be next. It's actually the Neptune battlecruiser which is absorbing most of that damage. So this is great work from Magician, who's really managing to keep Naturally alive here after what was a very torrid start. Thanks to that drop from Nightblood that just obliterated that base. All the while the comm was in the water. One lone sub-hunter picking apart the frigates in this little fleet here, but the destroyers roll in over the top and sink the threat. Nicely done. And Surrey has actually taken his comm away from this corner base. I can't believe they didn't conquer this. And there was a definite missed opportunity there when he was in position down here. I know he was busy microing his fleet and attacking Comrade Stryker up here, but if he had put slightly more focus on his commander, he could have brushed all of this aside. Now he wouldn't be embroiled in a little bit of a base war over here and lacking in any real build capacity to maintain it. This actually looks like the Sparkies over here are probably going to win. Front shield about to collapse. Those point defense will now start taking damage. Yeah, not looking great over there. Huge wave of torpedo bombers inbound from Barg. They're being shadowed, though, by hordes of ASFs here from Gutsy Heart and from Lee Source. They want to protect these battleships, or rather this battleship and this aircraft carrier. Barg decides to go in for the kill nonetheless. There's not going to be many torpedo bombers, rather, left to offload their ordnance. Team 2 will be happy with that encounter. In come the horde of ASFs from Team 1, Geneva Convention, who looks like he has a massive aerial advantage. Let's do a quick count here. What are we looking at? 87 ASFs there for Geneva Convention and Team 1, plus 2 that are out of fuel. Lee Source on 99. I beg your pardon. Team 2 have air dominance, potential air dominance. Another potential drop on the way here for Team 2 and Nightblood. He loaded up 4 T2 transports full of Zuis, but correctly read the inbound threat here from Geneva Convention and from Barg. He's brought those transports right back. Is he going to offload the Zuis as well? Oh, yes he does, but not before losing one of those transports. Gets shot down. I like what I saw there. Geneva Convention did not pull back all of his fighters to deal with that threat. He just sent in a few of them single file. That was all that was needed to force that drop back and protect his teammates. So we've had a couple of experimentals now. I think I saw one complete a while ago for Gutsy Heart, which is probably this Awasar here, which is now being chased by Geneva Convention's fighters. Did he get much damage down? Well, he's got 9 kills to his name, so not a massive, impactful first outing, if that was his first outing. And then we had a second experimental from someone on Team 2, but I'm not 100% sure who it was. Oh dear. The Novaks have made an appearance for Team 1. Geneva Convention starting his second. And where is he currently directing it is the question. Nowhere as yet. It still hovers above his base. There's the go code. Sent out to engage hostile forces. Ouch. What was that? That was a very clumped group of missiles or something. Was that just from battleship fire? Might have been from the summit over here, potentially. We're starting to get to a bit of a critical mass of battleships in here for Dark Magician. Dark Magician, who leads the whole field. Remember, of course, he's sitting on 2 base. But he leads the whole field by some considerable margin. But a massive ASF battle ensues over the top of this fleet. It looks like it's gone very well for Geneva Convention, considering we ascertained just a few moments ago that actually Lee Source had an advantage in numbers. But that seems to have made no impact on the outcome whatsoever. And in fact, extra support being brought in from both Nightblood and Gutsy Heart. And Geneva Convention still holds the field with a massive retention in fighter numbers. So that couldn't really have gone any better for Team 1. Very, very nicely done, sir. You have my applause. I would applaud if it wouldn't destroy the cast with the clapping sound into the microphone. Up to 19 kills with that Awasar now, but he's being pursued by Geneva Convention, who's taking a lot of damage from ground base and sea base SAMs as he flies over the top. Not many of these fighters left. Can they shoot it down? Our survey says in fact, they only get it to about 55% health in that pass. He won't like taking that damage, but he'll be happy with the overall outcome. So a decent chunk of fighters eliminated there for Geneva Convention. Team 2 will breathe a sigh of relief at that, at least. Nice little drop over here into the crater. Finally eliminates Geneva Convention. And a second drop over here with those extra Zuis we saw a moment ago. Not being brought straight in because of the inbound fighters from Bug. They have to offload, that's not a thing, offload their Zuis onto the water and then hoof it out over here on floaty, naughty hover pads. They're going to take a lot of fire from this fleet in the channel belonging to Naturally, though. So many dead Zuis on the crossing. They're probably not going to get any meaningful work done out of this drop at all. Still, you can't win everything. He's had a very successful drop right at the opening of the game. Nightblood will have to be happy with that for now. He's not going to get any more work done with this second group of Zuis. Yowzers. Literally nothing. Transport with some engineers brought in for Don Salieri to hoover up the mass points in the crater. Oh, was that a T3 artillery shell? Yes, it was. Who's responsible for that? It looks like it's Gutsy Heart has an operational artillery installation. Let's have a quick look at the bases roundabout, see what's going on. We've got a nuke launcher up and running in the main base down here for Lee Source. We now have 2 Novak, soon to be 3, and then 4 for Geneva Convention, who seems to be going mass satellite as his main strategy now, whilst also keeping up air superiority fighter numbers. That second defense satellite, I think it's the second one, traversing the field to join the first, which is currently over the top of the island down here that houses Gutsy Heart. But he is now traversing over to the rearguard air position right in the bottom right-hand corner. Lee Source's base is pretty well shielded, but there are a few vulnerable P-gens kicking around. Is he going to quickly identify those and go after them? Yes, he is. Power generator sitting just outside the shield gen. Where's the next satellite? It continues its journey. Awasar landed for a while there. 27 kills to its name. And now we're seeing the emergence of some Atlantis submarines along with shield boats, used in conjunction with shield boats to try and counter all of this naval spam. That's a lovely looking bomb which is going to wipe out a few of those cruisers there and take the edge off that fleet's anti-air capabilities. That Awasar pulling a huge left turn. Is he going in again? Where is the Air Force? That could be a threat. There it is. So he didn't stop his left turn. He's going to pull all the way out. Lee Source shadowing that bomber with his ASFs. Very nicely done indeed. Look at this little strap bomber play from Lee Source coming up the western approaches. Has it been spotted? This is what Team 2 can see. Yeah, they can see the threat. You can see the motion of enough ASFs to cover that angle. Moving up there for Geneva Convention. Those strap bombs going to return to friendly territory. Definitely a wise decision. At some point in the intervening period, since we last checked in on the top right hand corner, this corner has fallen to Surrey, who has an awful lot of ships in the strait here now. some 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 battleships. I cannot believe how quickly this game escalated. He's actually forcing Striker back here somewhat. Striker with 4 summits, something like that. 5 summits. Forgot this little one up here. Not that there's anything particularly little about a summit at the best of times. There's actually a little bit of forward momentum in these sea lanes now for Team 2, something that's been lacking. Another Zui attempt moving up through the straits down here in the bottom left from Nightblood. Can he make landfall this time? He has reached the cliffs with at least one, which is going to be lobbing shells over at some of these structures up here. Cliffs throwing off his targeting somewhat. But look at this. Defense satellites that should be renamed assault satellites, really, because I've never seen them used defensively, or very rarely. Circling now above Surrey's base, having correctly ascertained that Lee's base is too heavily shielded. And speaking of heavily shielded, what a wonderful place to start building a Yolona Os. Experimental nuke launcher under construction. The game enders are on the way, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see if they're lucky enough to get that thing completed. Never a gimme in any game at the best of times. Hugely expensive and time consuming to build. Has, however, completed another experimental somewhere. Where is that? Quite find it, but look at the progress that's being made over here by Surrey, who's pushed up through the straits now and is forcing Comrade Striker back. Comrade Striker, who has a decent number of battleships here, just failing to break through. Another satellite, is that? Yep, another satellite completes over here. This really is just going to stack up over time. If he keeps pumping them out, it's going to be a very, very difficult thing for Team 2 to contend with. The sheer amount of damage he's going to be able to put down on these bases with relative impunity. Aha, there's the other experimental down in the bottom left-hand corner. It's an Awasar for Lee Source. It's taken some damage already. It's on about 76% health, with no kills to its name as yet. It's linked up with those other strap bombers we saw with an abortive attempt to move up this western edge of the map a little bit earlier. Right, guys. Pain. Don Salieri. Yes. Pain in what way, I wonder? So perhaps this attack, naval attack, has stalled a little bit for Surrey. You'll notice the presence on the northern coastlines of these middle islands has been brutalized by the presence of the fleets from Team 1. Guys has a little presence down here, but he's not properly trying to conquer it. He's literally just spitting out a couple of T1 units to deal with these mass extractors here and there. Having smacked the power grid over here of Surrey, though.
Strategic launch detected.
Those satellites have moved on to other positions. Surrey leeching power off his teammates. Doing alright for the moment.
Detected.
A nuke out from the main base of Nightblood down here. What's this ping? Help air with this instead. Friendly ping from Don Salieri, I believe. Like it, but the colour. Look at that massive air engagement. Huge quantities of torpedoes, torpedo bombers brought in by Barg. Surrey with his own little contingent of S-superiority fighters trying to defend against it. In comes a support commander in on a transport and a decent wave of S-superiority fighters as well from Lee Source. And the torpedo bombers not just coming in from Barg, of course. Comrade Striker as well with a presence there. The nuke, of course, where would it land? It lands down here on poor old Naturally, who's already rebuilt his base once, loses all of his core mass once again. Just can't properly get into this game, although he's got 3 battleships to call his own, so he should be relatively happy with that. Don Salieri asking for help with the air game. His ASF's getting brutally smashed over here in the center by Geneva Convention. But for the time being, Lee Source completely wrapped up in the construction of the Yilona Os, which is over halfway done now. 6,100 HP of 12,000. RIP 40k mass killed Atlantis. Oh wow, so that must have been this little chappy down here. Finally bites the dust on the seabed. Alas, wasn't to be. No seeing the end of the game for you, sir. And potentially the way things are going, is anyone on Team 2 going to see the end of the game? This is nasty. We've got 5 Novak satellites over here in Team 2's territory. Now they're moving up here to potentially engage the fleet of Surrey, who's been engaging himself with devastating effect up at the top. That could be about to end. Huge multiplayer pressure being brought to bear now from Team 1. Striker and Geneva Convention looking to shut this threat down in the top right-hand corner. Will the battleships be the target? They pass overhead. Look at that. HP just evaporating. There goes one. And there's no shield coverage for these vessels at all, and nothing they can do about those defense satellites. They've got to find a way in to destroy these. We've got a teleporter on the way for Guys, who has the Zephamp and the T3 engineering suite. So could this be a strike attempt against Geneva Convention? He can't just kill Geneva Convention's comm, of course. Full share is on. He's going to have to find a way to shut down all of these. He has got the T3 engineering suite. Could he outbuild? I mean, unlikely. Look at all these support commanders up here. He would lose in any kind of base war, I think. This is going to be really hard to teleport in here and destroy these satellite centers, the command centers, and take those satellites out. Another nuke out from Nightblood. Where's this one going? Won't be going after Naturally again, I shouldn't think. There's not a lot there. A teleporting support commander in from Gutsy Heart. He's thrown down 1 unit of anti-air. In comes another. Mercy strikes being brought in to deal with him. That's why he's trying to pump out these T1 anti-air defenses. Oh, down to 5,000 hit points. And another strike, 4,000. Now he's getting to work on point defense. Oh, down to 3,000. He's got 1 unit of PD up and running. But the Mercy's coming in all over. And there's the nuke strike taking care of the main base. The support commander does go down. But will the PDs be able to crack this shield and start knocking out these T3 P-Gens? That's the question. Right, guys, teleporter done. Give me a lot of energy storage, please, he says. He's already teleporting. Halfway done. Can we see an exit point? He's got to be going up here, surely. Can't see it yet if it is up here. Striker over here as well, setting up shop in the top left-hand corner. I'm going to pause it. Something that I rarely do these days. Okay, so it looks like he's aborted his teleporter and starting again. I want to go to split screen just to get an idea, because that makes sense as a way out of this mess. There it is. He's going right at the top of the screen. Starts immediately getting to work on some plasma cannon. But look at the support commanders nearby. They just home in on the comm. The PDs that he starts working on get nowhere near completion, and he gets annihilated. That was not a well-executed drop. Too much danger with all the support commanders there, as we thought. Right, guys, the second ejection is now actually only a 5v5. Remember, Rikki Tikki Tavi died out earlier, but during the commotion, the Yolona Oss was completed. And for those of you that don't play the game, you probably don't see these very often. You don't really see these very often if you do play the game, but these things can spam out experimental nukes that take 2 anti-nuke missiles to shoot down, not just one, and can be very difficult to contend with
Strategic launch
because of the
detected.
sheer rapid-fire nature of how often they can be recharged. That first one shot down, 1 anti-nuke left in that silo. How prepared are they? We've seen some more silos being constructed over here. This one over here's got 2 anti-nukes in it. That's got none any more anywhere else. There's another one down here with a ton of point defense around it. That's got 5 anti-nuke missiles in there. That's why he wanted to protect it against any potential threat from teleporting commanders or support commanders, something that we've now seen Team 2 doing. In come the Novak satellites over towards Lee's base, because that is where the threat lies. We do, of course, have the odd nuke over here as well for Nightblood. And he started work on an experimental missile launcher as well, so we could potentially have 2 Yolona Oss spamming nukes out towards Team 1. That's rarely something that anybody can keep up with. 1 super nuke does land over here, and you will see the incremental waves of damage befall this base, taking out structures as they go. Wow, that mass fab going to survive with 500 hit points. Couple of lucky support commanders there, or 3 of them, but a lot of damage inflicted on Dark Magician, who is now no longer mass leader, brought down to 599 mass per tick. 599 to 600.
Strategic launch detected.
Nightblood pulling in 700, 619 for Geneva Convention.
Strategic launch detected.
Team 1 pulling in 2.2k, Team 2 pulling in 2k. But Team 2 up almost 500,000 mass. I can't believe that. How? How on earth have they managed to accrue so much more mass? We haven't been focusing in on the eco too much. There's been so much going on everywhere on the field. But look at this progress right now by these summits and these Seraphim battleships rolling up on Gutsy Heart's base, who's already losing some important buildings just on the edge of his shield coverage here as the cruise missiles fly in. Of course, 1 super nuke on this fleet and it's basically done. A regular nuke connects over here for Nightblood, tearing a hole in Barg's base. Team 1 starting to get absolutely obliterated via nuke. This was a nice little transition Team 2 made. If they can just breach, if they land a super nuke in this back base, I'm tempted to call that game, set, and match, quite frankly, because this right here, this Novak setup of Geneva Convention, that's the biggest threat. That and the fleet of Dark Magician, the 2 biggest threats. The fleets, when they bunch up, they can be hit at any time by nuke spam. But of course, the anti-nuke launchers, you're going to have to take them out with a missile or some other strap. We've got a regular nuke launcher, as we said earlier, as well in this base for Lee Source. How's that second Yolona Oss coming along? Well, it's not had a huge amount of build capacity devoted to it up until now, but while we're speaking about it, Don Salieri moves in along with a ton of T3 engineers from Nightblood, so they're going to be prioritizing that construction now. Hero Awasar trying to keep these vessels at bay. Only got 8 kills to its name for the time being, though. Just look at this fleet and all of these cruisers. Huge amounts of anti-air coverage defending those vessels. How is the Northern Sea battle going? Well, Stryker, with the help admittedly of Geneva Convention, has forced back Surrey through the straits here. Surrey has no longer got control or full control of this top right hand corner island. This forward set of naval manufactories are starting to get picked apart, and it's only a short sail away to the main shipyards down here. Nuke span continues, and the anti-nuke silos continue to defend. So many anti-nuke silos in here now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 anti-nuke silos in play in that main base for Geneva Convention. That's going to be really difficult to break through with one. But 2 Yolana Os, if they both continue to fire and don't stop and prioritize that corner island, they might be able to break that just because of the sheer rapid rate of fire. And see how quickly that thing recharges, especially with all of the assistance they get. Second Yolana Os at 60% completion. Really is a bit of a arms race here. Awasar defending the straits down here for Nightblood still going. Strat bombers inbound, trying to do anything to whittle down this nuke defense. Only one of them offloads its payload. It doesn't even get close to breaching the shield. Oh dear, this is not looking good for Surrey and Team 2. That forward base, which used to belong to Rye Guys, that has been bombed into oblivion. Nice little stream of torpedo bombers taking the opportunity of a lull in air cover just to target some of these vessels or put some damage on them. Geneva Convention finally shows up to defend the vessels. Ooh, in come the air superiority fighters as well for Nightblood. Horridly outnumbered now. The Awasar, which was coming in for another attack, pulls out in behind the inbound fighters of Lee. I want to keep saying Lee Sin, but this isn't a League of Legends game. It's Lee Source. Other sources are available. Now, this is interesting. It doesn't look like they are maintaining the pressure on this corner over here. They're either going to go for this island here, or are they going to go for Comrade Stryker's main base? We do have anti-nuke silos in play. Are they loaded? That's going to drop short instead. Ooh, Dark Magician's very close. Bosh! No! Yes, he's underwater. How did he survive that? I know he's underwater, but he hasn't even taken any damage. That looked like he was gone. Wow. Lucky escape there for him. Nukes landing all over the place. I worry a little bit for Team 2. They're putting all of their eggs in the nuke basket. And slowly but surely they are losing ground in the sea. Ever so slowly. We do have one. Look! Ah! Just when I said it never happens. A defensive defense satellite. Just one of them being used as intended by Gutsy Heart there. Still a presence in the bottom left-hand corner for Nightblood. Ooh, that is a very, very large group of strat bombers heading south now from the top right-hand corner for Geneva Convention. They're going to run into Lee Source's fighters. A lot of them are going to get picked off in that exchange, but some of them are going to make it through. They're going after Surrey's resourcing options. T3 Mex is going to bite the dust. Oh, look at that. Transfer of everything over to Lee Source and then a Control K. Well, this has been a really fun game, but life is in the way. See, don't think you should have used the name Surrey. You're clearly not up to the challenge, sir. You should have called yourself Essex instead. Much more your speed. How can you bow out? How can you? It's not over yet.
Strategic launch detected.
I think the demoralization factor was just a little bit too much. He lost too much ground. Probably feels like he's not going to hold this straight up here. And now with Strat Bombers attacking his main base as well. In come the defense satellites as well. He knows he's done. And so bows out, leaving his teammates to try and muddle through. Ooh. Nuke out this time from Team 1. Nuke launcher in the top corner for Comrade Striker. Where is that heading? What's the missile count for Geneva Convention? 4 in the corner silo down there with the immense point defense coverage. 2 there, 2 there, 2, 1, 1, 3. There's an awful lot of anti-nuke coverage up here, and it's not getting utilized either. Is this one going to connect?
Strategic launch
Yes,
detected.
it is, but it's not going to damage a huge amount. Probably take out everything in this kind of area over here. Another way, it hits there and takes out those structures first, even though the ones right there were much closer to it. Striker does land a nuke right in the middle of Surrey's old base. Where are we in terms of mass generation now? It's a 1.6, 1.7k income for Team 2 and a 2.4k income for Team 1. You can see the total mass accrued values narrowing, the margin between the two teams narrowing massively as this game goes on. The old base of Don Salieri has been annihilated thanks to the constant presence of naval supremacy forces, or superior naval forces of Dark Magician just north of this island. Don Salieri has his comm over here. What's he doing over here? Don Salieri's comm. Is he upgrading something? Looks like he's upgrading something. And there is a completed Yolona Os. So we now have 2 experimental nuke launchers. Who's going to prevail, guys? Answers in the comment section below. And while you're down there, give us a like and a subscribe if you don't already. It's always appreciated. The likes help the algorithm as much as the comments. Who is going to prevail? No waiting to the end of the game. Will the second Yolona Os be enough? That's a beautiful placed super nuke. That's a lot of dead battleships in that strait. Perfectly timed, perfectly clumped, perfectly screwed. Lots of summits sinking to the ocean bed there. Quite a few of them made it through, actually. There's still a decent number, but at least 5 or 6 went down in that explosion. Comrade Striker's base did get taken out in the end. Apologies for missing that one. I do love a good natter, as you know. A second nuke lands, affecting no extra damage whatsoever. Don Salieri completes a teleporter. He's starting the laser, so a second tele-snipe attempt. Where are the Novax satellites? They are literally right over the top where you were looking, Guile. Good job. And look at all of the dead power plants circling over the base over here. I don't have high hopes for the longevity of this second Yolona Os. Yes, it's well shielded at the moment, but the sheer number of Novax satellites, that's 6 in there. We've got inbound battleship fire here from an Omen-class battleship, badly damaged, admittedly, belonging to Naturally, who's still in the game to his credit. He's not had a fantastic game, hasn't had a chance. His base has been assaulted more times than my sister in her clubbing days. That's not even funny, Garl.
Strategic launch detected.
No, I was going with that. Couple of anti-nukes out. Again, taking out that threat. They could just sneak one in. They just need to land one. And this is potentially game over.
Strategic launch detected.
Don't think that comm's going to be able to do it. 28% done on that laser upgrade. We saw how the last teleporting comm drop went. It did not go well. It didn't go well though because there were support commanders in the area. Are there still support commanders? No, but would you look at all the Ravagers? That's going to be instant death. You'd be lucky to snag maybe one or two. If he teleported in here, he might be able to bag 2 Novak satellites before he gets instantly annihilated, although they're already pointing in his direction, so he wouldn't need any training time either. They would just open up and obliterate the comm. Oh, and Salieri gets annihilated via Novak satellite. We said those shields were going to capitulate eventually, and yes, they did. Along with him goes that second Yolanda Ost. Nightblood now exposed as well, although he's at 48,000 HP on that commander, so he's not going down easily. But his base is done, essentially just leaving Lee Source and Gutsy Heart remaining. The sea lanes are completely clogged. We have a whole new wave of battleships, despite the number of battleships that got obliterated up here in the Straits. A whole new wave coming in from Comrade Stryker. Torpedo bombers desperately trying to fend them off from Gutsy Heart and from Lee Source. And I just don't see, especially now that they're only down, they've only got one Yolanda Ost remaining. Potentially if they had both stuck with constant firing, they might have been able to sneak one in here. Maybe. But look at the amount of resources that has been employed here to nuke defense. Geneva Convention just masterfully keeping out those nukes. We're going to see another sea-based nuke. No, sails overhead over that fleet. That could have done real damage in the center there as well. But look at all of the inbound battleship fire going down on Gutsy Heart's base. Gutsy Heart with an outrageous complement of clink hammers, Seraphim artillery pieces. Shields doing a fantastic job at trying to keep those out. Another nuke inbound, another nuke shot down. Sorry to say, I only see this going one way at this point. 1 hour, 1 minute into the game. We've crossed that massive threshold that so few games actually end up traversing. So much artillery. That must cost an absolute fortune in energy just to fire. Fantastic work, it has to be said, by Gutsy Heart. Shielding his base and maintaining his position, because without him this would have been long since over. Another wave of strats though inbound from Geneva Convention. Ambassadors are going to clobber the shield coverage. Surely allow some sea-based artillery to sneak through. No? How are these shields holding, or is he manually cycling them? He's building new shield gens all the time with these support commanders. It's been good transition of economies into mobile generation with these support commanders. If you're new to the game and you're getting involved in a long game, you have to have support commanders, guys. It's an absolute must. Keeps your economy mobile, gives you huge build capacity. Oh, shield coverage failing at the front line of Gutsy Heart's base. And then a new one pings up almost instantly. This must be exhausting trying to keep up with this. Every time the shield gens go down, but that's a massive critical failure as the Novak satellites take out one shield gen after another, and then a huge wave of artillery comes in, and when the support commanders go down, that is literally it. Gutsy Heart loses his ability to regen base defenses. Another support commander dangerously close to going pop here. 1 hour, 3.5 minutes. And it's interesting, actually, they haven't bothered to try and take out the bottom left at all. I feel like just a couple of vessels, like we've got a couple of battleships here, right here, naturally could just dispatch those to the bottom left-hand corner to clear all of this out. But at no time has that happened throughout the whole game. Another wave of Ambassador Strat Bombers inbound, and that's surely the end of the support commander threat. Gutsy Heart having his comm pinged onto the last remaining vestige of shield coverage in his base.
Strategic launch detected.
There's a Control K, I think. Another Control K over here for Nightblood, potentially, or was that a nuke landing? There's a Control K for Lee Saw, sorry. Nightblood over here inherits everything. Is he going to stick it out to the end, I wonder? All of his teammates have abandoned him. Is this going to be naval defense, or are they still determined to try and break Geneva Convention's defense? I'm sorry to tell you guys, it's just not going to happen. It is far too well covered. Comrade Striker, I like what he did here, actually. He set up shop with a little quantum gateway, piggybacking on the defense of his teammate just across the channel here. And just sent the support commanders over to re-establish his main base. And there is another destroyed nuke. Perfectly managed. 1 hour, 5 minutes. The nukes keep coming, but they keep getting shot down. A lot of battleships clumped up. That would have been the perfect place for a nuke right there. But I think all you'd be doing right now is extending the inevitable. Another Awasar, or Arsewasher, as you might know it better. Shame that Don Salieri didn't get to finish his upgrade on his commander, so we didn't get a chance to see one more snipe attempt, one more telemaser, or a telemaser, because of course the first one was with a UEF comm. But I'm under no illusions that it would have gone exactly the same way as the first, maybe even a less successful attempt, if that's at all possible. Awasar under construction, right in the middle of the map here for Dark Magician. One lone transport just tickling away at some mass storage. Ooh, some power failure going on here. What is Geneva Convention building which is usurping all of his power? Massive power failure. Support commanders down here spamming up flayers, defending that western approach. And he's dispatched defense satellites now to this bottom left-hand corner. Finally, a play to properly contain now what's left of Team 2 to this bottom right-hand corner. But the ships are now sailing in the home straight. Comrade Striker moving up on the main base. This section of the corner base somewhat defended by this rock formation here, of course, from this inbound battleship fire. But once they get in here, there's going to be nothing keeping out that artillery fire. Having had no presence or hostile naval presence make it this far, there's no artillery defense on the beaches down here.
Strategic launch
1.3 million mass on the map. Yes, he's not wrong.
Strategic
That's how much reclaim there is. That's disgusting. And of course, notice where it all is as well. Predominantly down in this bottom right-hand corner. Just the sheer amount of mass that Team 1 have thrown at Team 2.
Strategic launch detected.
Kill-loss ratio. Team 1, 1.07. Team 2, 0.58. Finally, a nuke tasked elsewhere other than the top left-hand corner. I guess he's resigned to the fact he's probably not going to break Comrade Stryker. But the summits have reached the end channel. In come the cruisers as well. We've also got a Awasar from Team 1 buzzing overhead. That's going to massively deplete the shield coverage very quickly indeed. Nightblood's comm over here. Look at that. Down goes the shield, and down go the power plants connected to these air production facilities. In come the cruise missiles. The outcome now certain, as if it wasn't already. Look on the mini-map, you can see the bottom left-hand corner, the Novak satellites working on tidying up things in that corner island, which has received virtually no attention for the entirety of this game. Wave of strap bombers inbound from Geneva Convention, making it all the way to the main base unmolested this time. A testament to their progress throughout. A massive, nicely dispersed bombing run, crushing the front of this base. Only the corner section now survives pretty much with the shielding and the Yelena Os. Bosh! Massive chain reaction. There goes the Yelena Os, along with all of the support commanders and build capacity surrounding it. Nightblood cowering behind this rock formation now. Dodging some fire as best he can and then giving up. 27,000 hit points left. No base left to speak of. And the primary target left on the map. And there he goes. 1 hour, 10 minutes. Team 1 finally triumphs with a very slow, marauding, grinding naval push into that bottom right-hand corner. And actually, the bottom left-hand corner, as we said, that's received no attention, actually outlives everything in the bottom right-hand corner. Very little happened down here at all. Mainly, I think, because the presence that was guarding this corner was Naturally, who played a minor role, I think it's fair to say, in the game. But it's also fair to say, received the most harassment on Team 1. Very close game. The end picture doesn't really reflect it. I think it's fair to say it was a very close game throughout, and if they just managed to land just one of those nukes in there, it could have turned out very differently. Maybe, potentially, if they had not broken, they had not gone for other things, if they had only directed all of their nukes to that top left-hand corner, and especially when they had two of them, if they haven't got demoralized and gone elsewhere, they might have been able to break it. But that's what happens in these longer games. You're sat there, you don't know, you see the huge number of silos arrayed in front of you, and the demoralizing effect of all of your nukes getting shot down. It's that constant dopamine build up where you think, I've got another nuke, it's almost done, firing it only to see it get shot down. It's infinitely demoralizing. And you end up thinking, well, I've got to make this thing pay somewhere. I've got to start landing some hits. So you go off to other targets. Oftentimes, it's when there's only one or two missiles left in the silos over here. So you're giving them the chance to recharge their defenses. I'm not sure it ever got that close, to be honest. But like I say, there were multiple times when they went after other targets. If they'd taken this out, the Novak satellites would have gone down. A lot of the base infrastructure, we didn't get a chance to cover it because there was so much going on, but a lot of the base infrastructure in this game for Team 2 got taken out or blown up by those darned Novak satellites. Can we see kill counts? They don't actually have them. Does it actually track them on the satellites themselves? 129 kills for that one. 3 kills for that one, not so much. 4 for that one, 3 for that one. Where are all the other satellites? Won't actually let me... Oh, no, it will. So, can I see any of the others? I actually can't. But, oh, they're off map, that's why. Can I actually bring them up? Maybe. I'm just curious to see if we can get a read. No, nothing on that one. No, not getting a proper read on them. But huge amounts of casualties inflicted by those. And you know what I like? We didn't get a chance to mention it either. I did see it briefly. I like, and also in equal measure don't like, this Geneva Convention moving his commander up here. And you might think, why is there a sonar platform there? Well, if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, it's got jamming on it. So that will have confused any spy planes or scout planes or whatever that would cruise past. They would see that, they would see other signatures under there. But actually, all you're doing is telling someone that there's something there. So they fly past, they see that sonar thing, which, of course, floats on the water. They're going to think, why is that there? There's probably a comm under there. So you're risking it just by doing that. If you are going to move it there, probably just better to move your comm there and forget about it. But they also nearly got a Mavor up as well. Even if they're, by some miracle, they've been able to hold out, slow up the progression of Team 1, they still would have had that to deal with. This game was done and dusted. Comprehensive win there for Team 1, even if it did take an hour and 10 minutes to get there. But it was close throughout it. It was a 5v6 initially in favour of Team 2 because Rikki Tikki Tavi took an early loss, an early L over here on this forward middle island due to some Notha fighter bombers. Who was it from? I think it was from Gutsy Heart that got the final kill there with some Notha fighter bombers. And then they managed to get a kill back. Who went down first? It was it Rye Guys with that teleport attempt? I think it was Rye Guys with his teleport attempt up here. But I mean, that was late. That was like at 45 minutes or something that it got evened up. So Team 1 were a man down for about half an hour in this game. And they still managed to triumph. But interesting game, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, more to come from me in the future. Don't forget, if you want to see more, there's more content over on the Patreon channel. I try and get a new cast up every single week. It's a mere $1 a month. Think what you spend $1 on. It doesn't really buy you much of anything these days. I'm not planning to increase it anytime in the future either. I want it to remain as accessible as possible. So if you want more content, you've seen everything, do give it a try. You also get access to the Discord server as well. So come, play, chat, and watch more content over on the Patreon, guys. Link in the description below. All right, until next time, guys, stay well and stay safe. This is Guile, signing out.